Dear students, now we are going to start our new chapter, Chapter 3, Politics of Planned Development, from your textbook in Political Science, Politics in India Since Independence. And in this part of the audio, we will discuss the main points to remember, the main points of the chapter, and the introduction. And I request all of you to please listen to this very attentively. And let us start the chapter with the main points of the chapter. On the eve of independence, two models of development were before India: liberal capitalist model and the socialist model. There was consensus on planned development. The Planning Commission was set up in March 1950 by a simple resolution of the Government of India. The Planning Commission opted for 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan was started in 1951, and in this plan, main emphasis was on agriculture, including investments in dams and irrigations. The second 5-year plan, that was from 1956 to 1961, stressed mainly on heavy industries. Rapid industrialization was the main aim of the second 5-year plan. India followed the path of mixed economy. Severe droughts occurred in many parts of the country between 1965 and 1967. The agricultural situation went from bad to worse in the 1960s. Food crisis had many consequences. Example, import of wheat from USA. New strategy in agriculture was adopted, which is known as Green Revolution. The Green Revolution made India self-sufficient in food. Green Revolution also resulted in the rise of what is called the middle peasant section. Now, the introduction of the chapter, as we have already discussed, the eve of independence, India had two models of modern development. The liberal capitalist model, as in much of Europe and the US, and the socialist model in the USSR. There were many supporters of the Soviet model of development. These included the leaders of the Communist Party, the Socialist Party, and the leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru within the Congress. But a few were in favor of American style of capitalist development. The nationalist leaders were clear that the economic concerns of the independent India would have to be different from the defined commercial functions of the colonial government. The chapter describes the third challenge of the government, that of economic development to ensure well-being of each person of the country. In the last two chapters, we have studied how the leaders of independent India responded to the challenges of nation building and establishing democracy. Let us now turn to the third challenge, that of economic development to ensure well-being of all. As in the case of the first two challenges, our leaders chose a path that was different and difficult. In this case, their success was much more limited, for this challenge was tougher and more enduring. In this chapter, we study the story of political choices involved in some of the key questions of economic development, as what were the key choices and debates about development, which strategy was adopted by our leaders in the first 2 decades and why, what were the main achievements and limitations of this strategy, and why was this development strategy abandoned in later years? In this audio, we shall discuss the first three topics of the chapter, Politics of Planned Development. And the topics are number 1, Political Contestation, 2, Ideas of Development, and the third topic is Planning. Now let's start. Due to the rising global demand for iron, the reserved iron resource of Orissa has been an important investment destination to be signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU to bring in capital investment and employment opportunities. Some conflicts arose in Orissa, like tribal population feared to be displaced from home, and environmentalists became worried about environmental problem or environmental pollution. And now the first topic, political contestation. Decisions on such issues involve weighing the interests of one social group against another, present generation against future generations. In a democracy, such major decisions should be taken, or at least approved by people themselves. It is important to take advice from experts on mining, from environmentalists, and from economists. Yet the final decision must be a political decision taken by people's representatives who are in touch with the feelings of the people. After independence, our country had to make a series of major decisions like this. Each of these decisions could not be made independent of other such decisions. All these decisions were bound together by a shared vision or model of economic development. Almost everyone agreed that the development of India should mean both economic growth and social and economic justice. It was also agreed that this matter cannot be left to businessmen, industrialists, and farmers themselves, that the government should play a key role in this. There was disagreement, however, on the kind of role that the government must play in ensuring growth with justice. Was it necessary to have a centralized institution to plan for the entire country? Should the government itself run some key industries and business? How much importance was to be attached to the need of justice if it differed from the requirements of economic growth? Each of these questions involved contestation, which has continued ever since. Each of the decisions had political consequence. Most of these issues involved political judgment and required consultations among political parties and approval of the public. That is why we need to study the process of development as a part of the history of politics in India. Now the next topic, ideas of development. Development has different meanings for different sections of the people. Development would mean different things. Example, to an industrialist who is planning to set up a steel plant, to an urban consumer of steel, and to the Adivasi who lives in that region. Therefore, any decision on development is bound to generate contradictions, conflicts, and debates. And now the third topic, planning. The idea of planning as a process of rebuilding economy earned a good deal of public support in the 1940s and 1950s all over the world. A section of the big industrialists got together in 1944 and drafted a joint proposal for setting up a planned economy in the country. It was called the Bombay Plan. The Bombay Plan wanted the state to take major initiatives in industrial and other economic investments. Thus, from left to right, planning for development was the most obvious choice for the country after independence. Soon after India became independent, the Planning Commission came into being. The Prime Minister was its chairperson. And now let us see what is left and what is right. In the politics of most countries, you will always come across references to parties and groups with a left or right ideology or leaning. These terms characterize the position of the concerned groups or parties regarding social change and role of the state in effecting economic redistribution. Left often refers in those who are in favor of the poor, downtrodden sections and support government policies for the benefit of these sections. The right refers to those who believe that free competition and market economy alone ensure progress and that the government should not unnecessarily intervene in the economy. Dear students, in the previous two audios, we started our Chapter 3, Politics of Planned Development, from Politics in India since Independence. And in those audios, we covered the main points of the chapter, the introduction, and the first three topics: political contestation, ideas of development, and planning. And now we shall continue with the same chapter and with the new heading, the early initiatives. The Planning Commission of India opted for 5-year plans, FYP. The budget of the central and all the state governments is divided into two parts: non-plan budget, that is spent on routine items on a yearly basis, and plan budget, that is spent on a 5-year basis as per the priorities fixed by the plan. A 5-year plan has the advantage of permitting the government to focus on the larger picture and make long-term intervention in the economy. Now, the first 5-year plan. The first 5-year plan, that was from 1951 to 1956, sought to get the country's economy out of the cycle of poverty. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, presented the first 5-year plan to the Parliament of India. The plan addressed mainly the agrarian sector, including investment in dams and irrigation. Agricultural sector was hit hardest by partition and required urgent attention. The plan identified the pattern of land distribution in the country as the principal obstacle in the way of agricultural growth. It focused on land reforms as the key to the country's development. Now the next topic, rapid industrialization. The second 5-year plan stressed on heavy industries. It was drafted by a team of economists and planners under the leadership of P.C. Mahalanobis. If the first plan had preached patience, the second wanted to bring about quick structural transformation by making changes simultaneously in all possible directions. It, however, had its problem as well. India was technologically backward, so it had to spend precious foreign exchange to buy technology from the global market. That apart, as industry attracted more investment than agriculture, the possibility of food shortage loomed large. And now let's have a look on decentralized planning. It is not necessary that all planning always has to be centralized, nor is it that planning is only about big industries and large projects. The Kerala model is the name given to the path of planning and development charted by the state of Kerala. There has been a focus in this model on education, health, land reform, effective food distribution, and poverty alleviation. Despite low per capita incomes and a relatively weak industrial base, Kerala achieved nearly total literacy, long life expectancy, low infant and female mortality, low birth rates, and high access to medical care. Between 1987 and 1991, the government launched the New Democratic Initiative, which involved campaigns for development, including total literacy, especially in science and environment, designed to involve people directly in development activities through voluntary citizens organizations. The state has also taken initiative to involve people in making plans at the panchayat, block, and district level. And now, key controversies. The main controversial issues that arose as a result of the strategy of development followed in the early years were related to agriculture, industry, and public private sector. Now let us start with agriculture versus industry. There is a big question: which sectors we should emphasize more, agriculture or industry, in a backward economy like that of India? Gandhian economists like J.C. Kumarappa proposed an alternative blueprint that put greater emphasis on rural industrialization. Now, public versus private sector. India did not follow any of the two known paths to development. It did not accept the capitalist model of development, in which development was left entirely to the private sector, nor did it follow the socialist model, in which private property was abolished and all the productions were controlled by the state. Elements from both these models were taken and mixed together in India. That is why it was described as mixed economy. Critics argue that the planners refused to provide the private sector with enough space and the stimulus to grow. Then there were critics who thought that the state did not do enough. They pointed out that the state did not spend any significant amount for public education and health care. The state intervened only in those areas where the private sector was not prepared to go. Dear students, this is the fourth and the last audio of the chapter Politics of Plant Development, and we'll continue the chapter with a new heading Major Outcomes. Land reforms did not take place effectively in some parts of the country. The inability to take significant steps in the direction of achieving equal development in the very first stage was to become a political problem. Now, foundations. In this period, the foundations of India's future economic growth were laid. Some of the largest developmental projects in India's history were undertaken during this period. These included mega dams like Bhakra Nangal, the Hirakud for irrigation and power generation. Some of the heavy industries in the public sector were started during this period. Now, land reforms. In the agrarian sector, this period witnessed a serious attempt at land reforms. Perhaps the most significant and successful of these was the abolition of the colonial system of zamindari. This bold act not only released land from the clutches of a class that had little interest in agriculture, it also reduced the capacity of the landlords to dominate politics. Now, food crisis. The agricultural situation went from bad to worse in the 1960s. Already, the rate of growth of food grain production in the 1940s and 1950s was barely staying above rate of population growth. Between 1965 and 67, severe droughts occurred in many parts of the country. This was also the period when the country faced two wars and foreign exchange crisis. All this resulted in a severe food shortage and famine-like conditions in many parts of the country. It was in Bihar that the food crisis was most acutely felt as the state faced a near famine situation. Now, the Green Revolution. The government adopted a new strategy for agriculture in order to ensure food sufficiency. Instead of the earlier policy of giving more support to the areas and farmers that were lagging behind, now it was decided to put more resources into those areas which already had irrigation and those farmers who were already well off. The argument was that those who already had the capacity could help increase production rapidly in the short run. Thus, the government offered high-yielding variety seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and better irrigation at highly subsidized prices. The government also gave a guarantee to buy the produce of the farmers at a given price. This was the beginning of what was called the Green Revolution. The rich peasants and the large landholders were the major beneficiaries of the process. The Green Revolution had two other effects. One was that in many parts the stark contrast between the poor, peasantry, and the landlords produced conditions favorable for left wing organizations to organize the poor peasants. Secondly, the Green Revolution also resulted in the rise of what is called the peasant, middle peasant sections. And now let's have a look on the White Revolution. The White Revolution in Gujarat was started by Verghese Kurian, known as the Milkman of India. He launched Gujarat Cooperative Milk and Marketing Federation Limited, which further launched Amul. The Amul pattern became a uniquely appropriate model for rural development and poverty alleviation, which came to be known as White Revolution. Now, later developments. The development in India took a major turn from the end of 1960s. The period from 1967 onwards witnessed many new restrictions on private industry. 14 private banks were nationalized. The government announced many pro-poor programs. These changes were accompanied by an ideological tilt towards socialist policies. This emphasis generated heated debates within the country, among political parties, and also among experts.